Once again, the Arab Bedouin in Israel's Negev desert went on a violent rampage, burning tires on the roads, stoning cars and buses driving on the road, stoning and burning a police station, and even placing rocks on a railroad track that could have derailed the train and led to a huge, huge tragedy. Thankfully, the train driver stopped it. This is just some of the fear Jewish residents of the Negev desert have experienced the past few nights. Why the violent rampage by the Arab Bedouin? Because the state of Israel were planting trees. Yes, you heard that correctly. All that dangerous violence was because of the state of Israel planting trees on state land that the Arab Bedouin want to illegally take over for themselves. And what did our Israeli government do? Well, stick with me as we find out. As you see in those various video clips, the Bedouin violence was scary and dangerous. On a radio interview with media personality Sharon Gal, the mayor of one of the Negev desert cities, Dimona, Benny Biton, said, quote, "It's a disgrace what happened. I didn't sleep all night. I thought I was under some occupation in southern Lebanon. The roads were closed down. It's time to tell the truth. Enough. We're not hostages. We're fed up. Bring the cops in. Give them the backing to stop all this violence." People think that there is a problem of crime not being enforced in the Negev, but that's not the issue. The issue is a national problem, not a violence problem. It's a national problem we have here. The Negev is out of our control. It's hard for people to hear it. It sounds like fear to people, but this is the actual situation. End of quote. Here you hear a mayor say straight out that the violence from the Bedouin is not about crime, but about their national struggle against the Jewish state of Israel. They want to destroy the Jewish state of Israel. They're part of the Islamist struggle against Israel. And how do our politicians deal with this situation? By appeasing the Bedouin violence. Instead of doubling down with planting more trees to give across the strong message that the state of Israel can plant trees anywhere in our homeland and punishing the violent ones, the government gave in to their demands of the Islamic Ram Party in the coalition, stopped the planting, and didn't punish any of the violent ones. Now understand the absurdity. At the same time that this government is legalizing hundreds of thousands of illegal Bedouin buildings, while at the same time destroying Jewish properties in Judea and Samaria, this government also gives into the political demands of the Islamist forces in the government and stops the planting of Jewish trees. Really? The Islamist Ram Party threatens to stop voting with the government, and the Israeli government gave in to their political demands. That's why they stopped planting, because they needed their votes in order to pass laws in the Knesset. They don't want the government to fall. So the Islamist Bedouins are acting as if the south of Israel belongs to them, and that the Jewish state of Israel has no right to plant trees in our state land. These Bedouin want all the land for themselves, and the government is appeasing them. Until our politicians wake up and realize that this is a national issue, the Islamists have taken over the Bedouin community and are using them as part of the battle to destroy the Jewish state of Israel. Understand, Bedouin are nomads. They do not have land. Nomads are a traveling people, hence they are called Bedouin. Let's just open up the definition of Bedouin in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's see, what does it say here? Bedouin are Arabic-speaking nomadic peoples of the Middle Eastern deserts, especially of North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, Israel, Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. Most Bedouins are animal herders who migrate into the desert during the rainy winter season and move back toward the cultivated land in the dry summer months. Bedouin tribes have traditionally been classified according to the animal species that are the basis of their livelihood. Camel nomads occupy huge territories and are organized into large tribes in the Sahara, Syrian, and Arabian deserts. Sheep and goat nomads have smaller ranges, staying mainly near the cultivated regions of Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. Cattle nomads are found chiefly in South Arabia and in Sudan, where they are called Bakara. Historically, many Bedouin groups also raided trade caravans and villages at the margins of settled areas or extracted payments from settled areas in return for protection rackets that they still do today in southern Israel. So there you have it from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Bedouin are nomads. Some modern Bedouin today in Israel now live in permanent homes and communities, but the land is not theirs to demand. Communities have to be legalized, but they, the Bedouin, have no right to the land. The land doesn't belong to them. They are nomads. The land in Israel belongs to the Jewish state of Israel. For years, the Bedouin just grab pieces of land, they put up homes, put up farms, and then the government does nothing. Whereas if you are a Jew, you have to pay a lot of money to buy a piece of land or to buy a home, and then you must follow federal and municipal laws regarding your home. Laws that the Bedouin do not follow, and the government allows them to get away with not following. So you see how the progressivism that has taken over our government and society and police authorities over the past few decades have allowed the Bedouin to get away with land theft, crime, and protection rackets, all in the name of progressivism, because they are the poor Bedouin. All the while, many of these poor Bedouin are stealing land, running protection crime rackets, and driving expensive Land Rovers. Yes, they're not so poor after all, some of them. So the Israeli authorities must wake up and stop this insanity. Step number 1, get this Islamist Ram party out of the government, together with the other leftist parties that support their anti-Israel activities, and stop the authorities from enforcing the law and protecting Israeli citizens from the growing violence of these Bedouin Muslim Islamists. And again, it's not just about protecting Jewish Israelis, it's also protecting those Bedouin and Arab Israelis who also want to live peacefully without the terror and violence growing in their community that the authorities appease and allow to get away with.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.